All right, so now let's continue our discussion about social media and connecting with customers, and let's talk about this from a marketing perspective, and let's talk about some of the market issues. First, it's important to understand that there's a difference between using social media to connect with customers and using social media as an advertising medium. Probably the easiest example to demonstrate this is YouTube, right? So one option is I could have individuals generate user-generated content, put up, run a contest or something, and have people put up videos using my product, videos with testimonials about my product, people showing how good my product is. All right, and that would, of course, be using social media to connect with customers because individuals are doing that. Or I could generate my own social media commercials, and I could advertise on YouTube. If I were to advertise on YouTube, you know those little advertisements in front of each YouTube video, the annoying little advertisements? That would be using social media as an advertising medium, in this case using YouTube and doing what we call YouTube advertising. These are, of course, very different ways to approach the use of social media. And so but the one that the book talks about in this chapter is mostly the first version of this, where you try to get individuals to generate positive user content for their product. An example of this is an example of social media marketing in this way is what I would call meddling. That is trying to encourage positive online reviews, trying to get people to say something positive about a company. Have to be careful when you do this because it certainly can backfire on you. Don't ask me to do a review for your hotel chain where I just stayed, if in fact it's possible that I had an unsatisfying experience with you. All right, so I built a little chart for you here to talk about social media marketing versus social media advertising, okay? And so we talk about using social media, interactive marketing using social media. On the left-hand side, these are what I would call using digital marketing activities. And on the right-hand side would be sort of the social media activities, right? Having a Facebook page, generating likes, encouraging people to create. So the ones on the right-hand side are the ones that this particular chapter in your book is discussing. But understand then that there are dramatically different approaches to marketing using social media as a medium, and then social media activities in an attempt to try to create positive buzz. This is an example of a chart from your book. Talks about brand exposures, talks about the top social media sites and how they might be used. I don't buy most of this, but once again, your book discusses this, and so I think you would probably want to have read this and at least looked at it, because some of this information is probably going to show up again on an exam. All right, so let's talk about the 4 most important social networks. And of course, we start with Facebook. Your book talks about the idea of when you're on Facebook, be creative, make it familiar but with a twist, keep it fresh. So my first question to you is, should a company have a Facebook page? Is there any and of course, if the answer is yes, my question is why or why not? Well, the only logical reason for a company to have a Facebook page is because there are so many people on Facebook accumulating so many hours per day. And so if you're not on Facebook, you are obviously missing an opportunity to somehow interact with those individuals. On the other hand, I never consult with companies and recommend that they have a Facebook page. Of course, I never recommend that they don't have a Facebook page. I just want them to make sure that they understand the reality of the situation. If you have a Facebook page and individuals can post comments to that Facebook page, you don't have any real control over what is posted. Sure, you can take a post down, but there obviously are ways that people can keep you from taking it down by, of course, posting it on their page and then tagging you. Let me give you an example of this. I have a handicapped daughter who attends the university. Came out of my office one day out into the parking lot, and there was a Jimmy John's delivery car parked in a handicapped spot with no handicap sticker. So I immediately took a picture of it, and then I waited, and eventually the person came out. That was the Jimmy John's delivery person. And I asked him about what had happened, and he said, well, it's not a big deal. I was only parked here for less than 5 minutes because I was delivering a sandwich. He got in his car and drove off. So I went back to my office and went up to the Jimmy John's Facebook page and posted a picture of the car parked in a handicapped spot with the comment, now I know how Jimmy John's delivers so fast. They illegally park in handicapped spots. The post stayed up for about 4 or 5 hours, and then Jimmy John's obviously finally read it and took it down. I put it back up. They took it down. I put it back up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and of course then it stayed up till around noon until they saw it again. Eventually, I just posted it on my Facebook page and tagged them so that it showed up on their Facebook page. The word of warning here is be careful what you wish for. People are just as likely to post negative information on your Facebook page as positive information. So should you have a Facebook page? I'm not sure, but I think you ought to think about it. Next is Twitter. Of course, how does Twitter fit into a brand manager strategy? Well, of course, Twitter can be used to create brand buzz, either positive or negative. You really can't control whether or not your product is buzzed on Twitter, but you can sort of bait and prime that pump a little bit as a marketing manager. Your book talked about LinkedIn. It turns out that LinkedIn is a very difficult medium to use to generate social media buzz and a social media footprint. Maybe you can use it a little bit into business-to-business marketing and in social selling, but it's not as useful as the others might be. And of course, there's YouTube. Of course, one of the ideas is to try to get customers to post positive experiences using your product on YouTube, hopefully to generate a little bit of buzz. Well, understand that they could also post negative experiences, and they're probably more motivated to post negative experiences using your product on YouTube. As an individual company, you could generate your own YouTube channel, and on that channel you could post things like information about your product, how to use your product, how to service your product, how to make your product perform better, those sorts of things on YouTube. So YouTube might be a way that an individual company might be able to advance the awareness, education, and maybe even positive feelings about their brand. When we talk about social media, we talk about a number of performance measures, and of course these are performance measures that you tend to see a lot. Unique visitors, user members. Many of these measures that they mention here are really internet marketing measures and not social media measures. Things like likes and fans and visitors to the Facebook pages and those sort of things. Those might be ways to measure your success. But at the end of the day, most companies want to measure whether or not the overall sentiment for their brand is positive or negative. And I do highly recommend that if you have a major brand, that you have someone who is tracking this using a dashboard on a regular basis. Once again, there is this notion then of using social media to help in the personal selling aspect of things. And of course, under social selling, we have something called smart social selling, where the argument is, if you're going to use social media in personal selling, try to use it in a sociable way, try to maximize the positive exposure and buzz, be authentic, build relationships, and think about teamwork.